I'm going to show you how to make the absolute best deviled eggs on the planet. This is my grandmother's recipe, and I've done it this way for years. They're absolutely incredible. And you can tweak it a little bit if you want to. One major tweak I'll tell you about. But if you just follow this, you'll have the best deviled eggs you've ever had in your life, okay? So the recipe when I originally wrote it was for 8 eggs, and our family has grown, and so now I do it for 12 eggs. And so I've got 24 halves of deviled eggs, or of hard-boiled eggs. If you don't know how to do hard-boiled eggs and have them turn out right, then go check out the video I just shot on that, okay? So all I did was I chilled them because they're easier to work with. Ricky, you can see what Boudin's doing. Boudin's a dog. He's found something to bark at. So I just cut them in half, threw the yolks in my blender, and this is what I'm going to add to it. I originally wrote the recipe for 8 eggs, which would give you 16 individual deviled eggs. This will give you 24, okay? So, half a cup of mayonnaise, and this is about 3 tablespoons of prepared horseradish, black pepper, about a teaspoon of kosher salt, and that's just a teaspoon of parsley flakes, which does absolutely nothing for the flavor. It just looks pretty, okay? And everything's gonna go in here. Let's see if I can scoop it without spilling it all over the counter. There we go. Now, here's what makes it taste so good. This is also the major tweak that you're going to want to think about. Worcestershire sauce. Absolutely incredible flavor. It makes all the difference to the way that the flavors develop, and it turns out it's delicious. But, and I've got about 2.5 tablespoons. The main problem is it's brown, and it will turn the eggs kind of brown. So I have heard of a white or clear Worcestershire sauce. I think it's marketed under white Worcestershire sauce. So if for some reason the color is just that critical to you, check that out. I haven't tried it personally, so I can't vouch for it. But the number one problem is that it is not quite as screaming yellow as you may want. So that's something to think about. You may want to track that down. And then hot sauce, whichever brand you like. I'd say I used about a 1/4 teaspoon. Depending on for whom I'm making these, I will use less or more or whatever. All right, power on. I'm gonna scrape down my bowl real quick. Here's the other thing you want to think about. How silky do you want your filling? Because it's really hard to get it really smooth. I think my brother's coming out the door again. That seems to happen every time I shoot. Hang on just a second. Sure enough, it was my brother. We call him Tartar because his name is Richard, and when he was little, he couldn't say his own name, and that's how it came out. So here, 40 some odd years later. So impeccable timing. I think he's walked in on at least half the videos I've shot in the past week or so. That's all right. He's the one been helping me get my kitchen put back together. We have to work around my schedule and his schedule, so I'm not sure when that cabinet door is going to get on, but we'll get to it eventually. Okay, so we've poured everything else up. What was I talking about? How smooth it is? You're going to get it pretty smooth in the blender, but it's not going to be perfectly smooth unless you push it through a sieve. And here's what I'm talking about. You see those little tiny lumps? There is a way to get rid of those if you want to. And I'm going to show you how. I usually, I don't bother. It's kind of time consuming, but I'll show you how to do it if you want to. So if you put it in a little strainer like that, and then push it through with a rubber spatula, you can see the bits of yolk that didn't get mashed up in the blender. And I've tried this by just letting it go longer in the blender, and it just never comes together. And then you see how silky that is? That's how you do it. All right, so I am going to go ahead, because I'm showing y'all how, I am going to go ahead and push the rest of this through the strainer. And then as it comes out the strainer, I'm going to put it into a piping bag, okay? This is just a piping bag. There's a tip on there, but it's in the bottom of the glass. Now, you don't have to put it in a piping bag either. You can use a Ziploc bag, and you just clip the corner off, or you can just use a teaspoon. Either one, they both work. And you don't have to worry about getting fancy with it. But if you want to make them pretty, throw it through the piping bag. Okay, so this is going to take me a few minutes. Y'all don't have to sit here and watch me do it. How about we take a break? I see what Richard wants this time. And I'll show you the next step when I come back. Alright, so I ran everything through that sieve, and I got down to the last, like, 2 tablespoons, and it actually was, the little bit of chunks that are left are the horseradish. I used a ground horseradish. I think I said prepared horseradish earlier. Actually, it was a ground horseradish. So there are going to be little fibers. If you don't want that, if you want it absolutely silky smooth, make sure that you use prepared horseradish. It's got a much, much finer texture. All right, now, this has gotten warm. Well, not warm, I mean, it's room temperature, but it's a little too loose for me to be able to pipe it well. So I'm not, even though I'm gonna pipe it, I'm not gonna do anything fancy or try to make rosettes. But what I am gonna do is chill this again before I do the piping. So everything's in my piping bag. Ooh, look at that. Fine. Everything's in the piping bag. I'm gonna wash my hands, stick everything back in the refrigerator, let everything get nice and cold again before I go to the next step. Alright, it's kind of funny. I pulled this out of the cooler, it got nice and cold, and I realized my daughter had forgotten to put the piping tip in it. Normally it would go right there. It's no big deal. These are just for us, for the family, not for a party. I don't have to worry about making them all foo-foo. But that's kind of funny. I went to, and all you're doing is twisting the top of the bag like that so that you can get the filling down this way. Hey Bladen, can you turn that down, buddy?
Yeah.
Come on. So this is all. You just squeeze gently. Just got a little tiny something block that in. Yeah, that's all you have to do. Here we go. That is how you make Granny's deviled eggs. Ricky's whispering to Bladen to turn it down. Turn it down. He's playing a computer game. All right. So, if I have helped you out at all, please do me a favor and give me. Have I mentioned that one of Ricky's favorite things are deviled eggs? Oh, this is awful. This is so awful. I love my deviled egg plate. Southerners love deviled egg plates, and I've had this one for so long that we ended up losing one of the latches. So I made a big, huge batch of deviled eggs for Ricky's birthday about a month ago, and we were going to the local park to hang out and cook out and whatever. And Bladen grabbed the deviled egg thing out of the cooler by the handle and made it about 18 inches before they went all over the floor and inside the cooler and everywhere else you can imagine. That was awful. I'm sorry, Bladen, I had to tell that story. One half. And I think I was right in the middle of saying, watch out that the handle's broken. Crash. Okay, so, what was I saying? Please give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, please ask it in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer as fast as I can. I've got a brand new Patreon page. That would be so helpful if you could jump on over there and give me some support that way. Or you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest. Anywhere. That'd be awesome. So, now you know how to make the best deviled egg you will ever eat. Granny's deviled eggs. This one's mine, Ricky.